Welcome to Think for Yourself Clubhouse. My name is Bill Martin, and I'm going to have a discussion today with my confreres here. On my left is Dennis Reinhart, a longtime co-host, and on my right is Aggie Martin. I've known her for a few years. What we're going to try to do today is talk a little bit about policies that the Democrat Party might talk together with perhaps middle-of-the-roaders or Republicans about policies that affect the well-being of people in our community. And my thought was we should have a rule, and that rule is not to utter the name of our current president. You can say the word Republican, you can say the word Democrat, but do not utter the name of our current president as we go through these topic areas. I think that one issue that is very important that's going to hit us in the next several months is what should be done about the Haitians in Springfield? What is wise policy for immigration? My own thought is that if immigrants have lived here for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, some period of time, especially if they've started a family, especially if they've had a job of work, especially if they've paid taxes, then they ought to be allowed to stay here. Stay here to me means become a citizen. If they've committed the crime of coming into the country illegally, each and every one of them should be prosecuted for that crime. But if you've done all the things I mentioned, stay here quietly, obeying the law, start a family, have a job, pay your taxes, I think the penalty ought to be about $500 and move on.
I think what's important for people to understand too, being in the country undocumented is not a felony. It is a misdemeanor, and it especially doesn't deserve some of the harsh treatment that is being given to people in these detention centers. It's not like you've committed murder. If you don't have a criminal record where you've committed crimes in the United States, and I have to say this, most undocumented people do not want to draw attention to themselves. So they're not going to be committing crimes. They may be in here without the proper documentation, but they're working, they're trying to do better for their families. If they have broken the law, they certainly should have to meet whatever the law says, and they'll be deported. But there should be nothing vindictive against them. There should be nothing where they are harmed in any way, mistreated, being put in brutal conditions, those things. And when you talk about the people you were talking about, they do pay taxes. Immigrants that are here legally in the United States, they have a number where they pay, and they pay into the income tax.
So the Social Security.
Yeah, there's
and the Medicare.
Yeah, and they are a contributor to our tax system. They are also a contributor to our economies. And I think one of the big things a lot of people where the Haitians are at in Western Ohio is that they're a big part of that economy right now. And if that many people go, that's going to affect the economy of everyone in that area because they're working at jobs that are contributing to that community or those communities.
Think of what it would be like to live in this country right now if your skin was a darker shade than it is. Just think how you'd have to hide out. You'd have to worry about somebody stopping you in an unmarked car with a mask on and you don't know who they are, and then they shoot you. I mean, it is awful what's happening in this country. And I just don't think people should be treated that way. And these folks are working. You might want to stop people from coming in if the public doesn't want that to happen anymore. But you should treat people as you would want to be treated.
And I want to go back and say a few years ago there was a bipartisan bill that was about to pass through that had to do with a policy concerning immigration and concerning the border. Mm-hmm. And that bill was purposely stalled because it was wanted as a campaign issue. Now, at the same time that was happening, there was all this stuff about there's open borders, you can come across. So they're stalling a policy and they're letting the word out to people. People are coming north and finding that the border's not open, but they're being told. And it was almost like a strategy that had purpose. And it kind of caused things to even be worse.
It was a Republican strategy.
Yes, yes.
The Republicans felt like they could make immigration an issue, and they've made it an issue year after year after year, and nobody's done anything about it because basically rich people want lower wages, I think, and they pay people less. I mean, some people did it at their golf club, some people did it at their home, the construction trades and so forth. And I can see why people here would think that's perhaps unfair competition for our labor. But it's done now, and I think we have to act like we're human beings.
I think there's a wrinkle here that I'd like to bring up. What we're talking about is agricultural laborers, people who pick fruits and vegetables in the hot sun, and they do work that
Do roofing.
do work that people who grow up here, live here, won't do at that wage level. The employers are looking for these low-wage workers. Okay, so they're illegal immigrants, and I think what might happen is you have these coyotes and these brokers and these bad guys that scoop up illegal immigrants and say, I can get you a job of work in the field. All you have to do is do what you're told, and everything will be fine, and we'll pay you, I don't know, maybe half the minimum wage. But once you're there and once you're working, if you feel like you want to break away, or if you feel like you want to have a higher wage, or you feel like you want to make yourself known, then the coyote or bad guy that's running this thing says, you mess with me, I'll turn you over to ICE and they'll put you in a detention center, not only deport you, but keep you in a detention center for weeks or months at a time. So you better do what you're told. It's virtual slavery, or if not that, at least wage peonage. And how is that effective? How does it work? It works because ICE will throw these people in detention centers in cruel and unjust conditions, and that opens up an opportunity for criminals. It's not slavery, but it's pretty close to it.
Yeah, trafficking of human beings.
Trafficking of human beings in these fields.
And once they're in these detention centers, they're so miserable in there that they pretty much cause them to self-deport. You sign these papers, we'll get you out of here, we'll get you out of detention. So you get into concentration camp, which is what it is basically, and you end up self-deporting in order to preserve your life.
I think there ought to be a law that says that employers are responsible to use reasonable efforts to find out the immigration status of their employees, and also to pay a fair minimum
You
wage.
know, there
And
actually was a law like that for a while. Employers were supposed to file something, but they never figured out a way to enforce it, or if they did, they didn't use it.
or it's possible that somebody didn't want to enforce it.
Yeah, possible.
So I think that, from my perspective anyway, I fully agree that President Biden ignored the immigration problem for too long. That's a minus for our folks, but there are an awful lot of minuses for the way things are being done now. So that there ought to be controls on the border with respect to folks that are applying for asylum. That issue ought to be decided at the border before these people are let in. And if you need to have seasonal workers, set up a seasonal worker admission program so that these people are identified, they do their work, and after the season's over, they go home with their paycheck after having paid their taxes. So there's a whole lot that will be done to immigration to make it not only better for the citizens, but in my view, better for the immigrants. And those that have got in here for however, and they've had children, they've got families, they've set up like they've set up in Springfield, there ought to be a pathway to citizenship for those folks, including probably a prosecution for misdemeanor crime.
And the other thing is, it's been used as a political advantage, scapegoating these people. And the whole thing is tied into, the white supremacy and the replacement theory type things. And, it gets to the point where that's ignored, what you're talking about. And then it comes down to dehumanizing people. And now you've got a target to blame for everything.
It's almost like it's fun to
Yes.
stimulate that culture war.
Yeah. Well, and it's
idea.
it's politically an advantage, or they feel it is. It's a method to gain votes, to spread fear, or to spread anger.
They don't want to solve the problem.
It's beneficial. The problem's
Yeah.
beneficial.
They don't want to
Yes.
solve the problem, and there would be ways to do it if they wanted to.
Yes.